Okay. What are we recording? Do you want to sit down in the hot seat?
Short introduction.
Sit down in the hot seat. My short introduction.
Yeah.
This is not a real podcast. You do know that, eh?
Huh?
You know it's not a real podcast.
None of the shows is a real podcast.
Let's talk about
Oh, let's do it. Okay, let's go.
Yeah. So you're the owner's wife.
I'm the owner's wife. Let's be clear about that. Hi there. Thanks for joining us. This is something a little bit new for me. I do a lot of talking in general because I hate it so much. But we decided to formalize it with NPC Productions and Jason Yarzagaray. Here's the thing, y'all. If you've ever built an empire while being mistaken for the assistant, this podcast's for you. Welcome to The Owner's Wife. The podcast hosted by me, Amal Farhat Kassouf. I'm a music manager, bar owner, label founder, and apparently I'm still just the owner's wife in a lot of people's eyes. This show is for anyone who's been underestimated, talked over, or if they have been asked, can I speak to your husband? Each episode, I'll sit down with artists, entrepreneurs, and fellow chaos survivors and talk about what it really takes to build something from the edges of the map with zero budget and with an incredibly short fuse. There will be swearing. There will be storytelling. There will be no wellness routines. Let's get into it. I'm flipping pages here. Yeah, you can fix it in editing. Don't worry, Jason.
I'm not going to fix anything. I'm just going to leave it as is.
Jason.
It's a podcast, folks. There's no editing podcast.
Yeah, it's a podcast and it's fun and we don't have to do anything very formal. So we're going to start the top end of the podcast. It's going to be a little bit formal. Podcast will be a little formal, but it's going to be conversational throughout. So I'm super excited to welcome my first guest on my first episode ever, who is a friend now.
Yes.
Michael Lampe. He is a pioneering force in Aruba's evolving music scene, known for pushing sonic and cultural boundaries in a region where mainstream still dominates. He's the founder of Datapanik, a label and a creative platform dedicated to left of center Caribbean music, and Fellow, a hybrid music/tech project where Michael's work blurs the lines between artist, producer, curator, and innovator. He was born and raised in Aruba. Michael grew up surrounded by the island's rhythmic DNA with soca and bubbling, which I'm going to pause for a second and ask, what is bubbling? Because I've never heard of this before.
Well, bubbling is actually a type of music that was originated in Holland as part of the diaspora from DJs from the islands. In Aruba, we more popularly call it a rub-a-dub, which is a Jamaican rhythm that has influenced, as we know by now, even reggaeton and all the different types. In Holland, DJ Moortje is well known for taking those rhythms in parties and then he started speeding them up. And even by opening the techniques, he was like a sort of a magician with the rhythms, and the LP player wasn't going as fast as he wanted, so he opened it and really made a speed, what he called bubbling music, and that kind of became also a very important sort of source and sound for the diaspora of the islands living in Holland. So we grew up with this one as well in Aruba, and but we called it a rub-a-dub, and sort of like bubbling rub-a-dub in that sense, you know. It's a blurred line between diaspora and coming from the islands, but I think internationally it's more known for bubbling in that sense, yeah.
Wow, I swear, I was doing like a little bit of research.
Yeah.
We put this together, and I really had never heard that before. I've been living here almost 10 years. And
yeah. There is some research on it, which is funny enough. Wayne Marshall, I think is his name. He is a researcher. I don't remember which university, coming from the States, but he's been doing a pretty good research on this. He was also on here in Aruba during the times we were organizing the Amsterdam Dance Event, and we had studio sessions and all people coming together. And he was also here talking and doing a research on the sort of the line from where this type of music came from, and who were still busy. And DJ Moortje was in Aruba, and I had the honor to work with him that day in trying to make a track blending, you know, the sort of the influences together. So just a little bit of a background on that as well.
Yeah, no, like I said, I was like, I circled it. Okay, I'll close the loop on that real quick. So bubbling tambu.
Yeah.
And Michael has spent his career bridging the tradition with cutting edge of Europe's electronic scenes. You've collaborated with a lot of really cool people from the Aruban folk scene, a lot of classic Aruban folk artists, as well as names like Diplo and Jillionaire. And you're always centering your mission around connection, experimentation, and identity. And that is the intro to our guest, Michael Lampe. I'm super excited to have you here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for the I called you. We're like, yep, let's go.
Yes,
so I appreciate that very much.
I
think whole thing was at the last minute, huh?
Yeah.
But that's the best way of doing things as well. As I'm working as a producer as well full time, and I'm getting to a point in my life where I think we kind of underestimate the importance of being in a momentum, also with production. So by living by that, I was like, well, we have a momentum today. I was also doing some other radio interviews, and I was like, let's go, let's do this. But I think it's important. I'm putting that link with the momentum sort of importance that I'm, trying to also explain to the talents that I work with, how important it is to grab the momentum. There is a sort of a magic in the momentum, and let's get that out there. Let's record that. Let's talk about it, and and commit to tape. Even though we say nowadays you're committed to the computer, maybe, but back then the saying "committed to tape" was important. So I'm very happy. Thank you for inviting me.
Of course. Yeah, like it's funny. You just said talking to the artist really about momentum. I'm in the middle of momentum with the artist I'm working with. So that really resonates with me. And you have to it doesn't matter how many hours a day you work. It doesn't matter how crummy you feel. If you've got this momentum, get it. Use it, ride it, work with it.
And I think also it's very important for your creative process because you are channeling, as it were, a lot of experiences, a lot of feelings. And there are moments where you are in a certain momentum where you just need to get that out and don't overthink it and don't get back to it if it's perfect or not. Sometimes the momentum is just right, even though maybe the outcome of your technique wasn't right, talking about recording specifically. Talking about recording music. I think in the studio, a lot of times I talk about momentum in that context of saying, perform it because we're in a feeling and you can see that someone is in a magical moment. So you want to capture that instead of overthinking it. But we went from podcast to music production.
It doesn't matter. We're here for a conversation. I love talking to people so much. It's one of my favorite things to do. But that's a thing. Jason and I talk about this a lot. I don't know what to do with the word calm. I'm not comfortable with it. I'm not comfortable in calm. I need absolute chaos around me to thrive, survive. And I have things like whiteboards and, I plan things out. But I just love the chaos. So I'm here for it all.
That's where your power is.
It keeps you energized, right?
You're kind of, I see you doing a lot lately. And I also wanted to chat, you've been doing, something really cool's happened to you lately or something you've worked your whole career for
combination.
And something really cool's happened the last couple of days. And I thought maybe you want to talk about that.
Yeah, sure. There's a lot of cool things that happen.
So you want me to sort of touch on it?
I'm grateful for the things that are going on in terms of the layers of the project. You mean
Well, there's a couple of really cool things. If you want to talk about, I wanted to talk about your appointment.
Oh yeah.
Real quickly, if we could.
Yes. Well, I guess it's a combination of staying true to what you love for years. When I started. As a young boy, my family, I'm going back a little bit to the roots. I grew up in Savaneta, in Aruba, and I come from a very musical family that was from both sides. My mom and my father, they were both. Family is very musical and really rooted into the whole traditional music and folk music of Aruba, música criollo as we call it. And at home, I grew up with, a lot of rehearsals in the living room. And really, my dad, taught himself how to play the violin. He started like mariachi bands. And on the other side, my uncles were really into, the traditional music of Aruba. So I kind of was in a natural way absorbing all of this without knowing. And as I was growing up, I sort of wanted to create my own space to experiment within this because it was very dominant in me not trying to too much to touch the sort of sacred folklore
Yeah.
in that sense. So I thought I needed a different way to experiment and make something my own. I started a rock band when I was about 15 years old, and I was experimenting in how to integrate this, as a sort of a teenager, rebelness against also what your parents were doing and
What
all
was the
that
band called?
process.
What was the band called?
It was called Mushroom.
I
Mushroom
love
was
that.
the first band that we created with some friends. I knew a friend of mine was living not so far from where I was living. I literally dragged sort of my guitar over to him and told him like I want to learn how to play the guitar, and we started the band. And it was a very interesting times because I think for 2 3 years we were trying to build uh compositions or own songs. I
Yeah.
was always into that. I wanted to express my own things. But eventually I felt like, this is not the way. It didn't resonate with where I came from.
Hmm.
And very early on, I called KD, who was the first sort of like turntablist on the island. He was working with Basic One, which is like a rap group in Papiamento. And he was like sampling. The art of sampling was very into it. He had all these local vinyls that he was using, making hip hop beats with and stuff like that. And I was like, I think that's where I wanted to go. I wanted to sort of be empowered to make my own music. So I started learning from him how to do sampling. And that kind of
Oh,
opened
okay.
everything for me. So I made a song back then called Some Caribbean Music. And it was sort of like where one of my first, I guess, song trying to um, find out what my identity was, coming from Aruba, the Caribbean
Hmm.
influences. At the same time, we have this link with Euro because we're
Yeah.
Dutch. And so it was like for me a sort of an identity chaos, as it were, of who am I. And music became that sort of research way, and also trying to blend all these influences together. And so anyhow, I went to Holland after that. I did quite a lot of music projects and starting blending also club music, and did quite a lot of projects also on the island, trying to
Yeah.
create infrastructure for artists. And recently, been taking on the job as a cultural diplomat.
That's so
But
cool.
yeah, thank
So
you.
what does that mean? I mean, for our viewers, for me,
Yeah.
for
For
Jason,
me,
what is it? What look? What are you going to be doing as a cultural diplomat? What are
Yeah.
your personal goals for it as well?
Yeah. I mean, there is I can talk I think for hours on all the projects and processes and sort of eras in my life that I've worked on different angles that included sort of cultural development and creative
Mm,
industries. And so during the years I learned quite a lot about it, and have quite a lot of experience. I was in parliament for some times as
right.
well, trying to also work even more on the sort of the infrastructure for the islands, for the talents,
Hmm.
simple things like how can you register to Buma Stemra in Holland, which is representing your rights, the collecting agency for the
Hmm.
general rights for writers. And we weren't really able to uh, from here to really go online and just fill
Yeah,
that form
I
in.
know.
It's just
I
something
know.
very simple stuff, but very very
Yeah.
important if you want to be more professional in the
Yeah.
jobs, making sure that people can make some monetize their talents and things like that. But eventually it was also not a platform for me to work in. In Holland I've been doing a lot of projects as well, working with diaspora there.
Hmm.
We have a collective now called Bulgar, where we actually really organize parties in very creative scenes and underground clubs that are more also bringing the sort of the edge of bubbling and the sound of the
Okay.
islands, and linked with the sort of energy of Europe, I would say, club music. So in doing all of that, uh, I also obviously build a network and see the possibilities for what it is like to uh, create more infrastructure and essentially combine and build new possibilities internationally for your local culture scene or creative scene, and that's the sort of the core of what the work entails. I've done a executive diploma with UNITAR, which is the United
Yes,
Nations.
Fabienne, I saw that.
Yeah.
Cool.
And that kind of opened my eyes even more. I wrote an academic paper on that called The Natural Bridge of Cultural Diplomacy, international relations and global governance. All of it's all part of it. But the core is creativity. The core is culture.
Yeah.
And it's really about how can this strengthen the identity of Aruba? We've been dealing with cultural diplomacy in a way that in relation to tourism, which is,
Yeah.
very important part for us economically. But what happens when you look at it from the perspective of cultural diplomacy? It's really more about the culture in the pure form should be the core for how people connect to the island
Yeah.
and not just as a marketing, which is what you call a cultural
Yeah,
commodification.
because it feels, just to touch on that a little bit, it feels like me in the traditional sense of where it is attached to the tourism, which is very important. It just feels like it leaves a lot of artists out, a lot of super
Yeah.
talented artists out.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I'm struggling a little bit.
I think there needs to be space and separation, and that's why the work is also very important because it's also about looking at the whole ecosystem of the creatives on the island.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
your culture. You have in Aruba, we've kind of really placed culture and the word culture with tradition only. So anytime when people talk about culture on the island, it mostly they mean the traditional and the folklore, which is a big part of your culture. It's your history, and I think it's very important that we use that as the core and when we know where we come from. And I think the focus on the new generation, the youth, and the makers, the innovators, needs to be way stronger, and that is kind of where the bridge is lacking. As I called it, the natural bridge of cultural diplomacy. Because if you don't look after that, it's gonna also collapse.
Yeah.
And you're gonna create a sort of identity crisis, as it were, where the youth and kids don't know where they come from, and they see a certain promotion as being their culture to um, to the outside world, which it is also true. It's part of your culture too. But I think we can enhance that and enrich that with projects that really connects, the old and the new, the youth, and your folklore, but also this gives space for creative industry. This is where innovation happens. Otherwise, there is a whole generation that will maybe leave the island.
Get lost
kind
in
of
it.
looking for what is my identity. And as we know, global forces, global influences, from all over for such a small island entity as Aruba, it's very important that you know and that you anchor yourself in your roots and where you come from as a community.
Yeah.
The culture is that expression. So I'm kind of deep into that.
Okay, cool.
The culture evolves, right?
Sorry?
It's a culture, something that always evolves as well. So.
It's always evolving. It's something that you can give it an importance and try to give it the space to grow, as it were. But it's definitely something that is very evolving because it's an expression of a community. It's not just the tradition, just the folklore, which is a big part of it, but it's also the expression of new youth. It's the expression of different people in the same community, and that I think is very important. If you value that, then you value, the core of the people, and I think it's also builds a lot of respect for visitors, and you can showcase even more what Aruba is all about. So I think it's a big part of it. Cultural diplomacy in general means basically the sort of exchange of art and culture between, two and could be entities, people, or countries to create the mutual respect and trust, I would say. We don't have to like each other, but we trust each other because I know where you come from and you know where I come from. That's a sort of like the communist way of explaining culture diplomacy. But for Aruba, obviously, you need to contextualize it. And how do we need it, and how can I help the representation of the makers, the artists. How can we build better policy? We're working on that right now, the cultural policy
Cool.
for the island. So trying to also not only think about it as a way of how to make the culture international and that relationship, but also how to actually make it stronger on the island itself.
Okay.
So
So like really strengthen the cultural identity.
yes,
Yeah.
try it.
Yeah. I mean,
Work on that.
I come from a place that also is, our culture is tied with tradition. They
Yeah.
get confused, and religion as well.
Yeah.
So it's something that really
Yeah.
resonates a lot with me, in that respect. So yeah, I mean that's wonderful. I think you're going to be really an asset to a lot of these, artists that have been around for a while and the new ones. Because I mean, for me, Jason knows this quite well. I work with a lot of young new artists.
Yeah.
And I do get a lot of young artists coming up and going, how do I do this? How do I do that? How can I record a song? How can I write a song? And I'm going, in a lot of other countries, the Netherlands, in Canada, a lot of places, there's a lot of mechanisms, or there's infrastructure or funding in place, like songwriters camps and showcases. And I mean, there's a lot of stuff in place.
Yeah.
And I just feel like in Aruba, it's been really tough. There's a lot of
lackluster.
yeah. It's just for an island with, I have never seen so much talent just jammed into such a small space.
Yeah.
It's wild. And
Of course, it's not the type of artist you can.
Yeah, it's
like
just-
if you've been to the last two Battle of the Bands,
yeah,
there's a huge, and those young people, like 14-year-old, 13, 12-year-olds,
Yeah.
and so that they write their own music.
yeah,
and
they're screaming,
everything.
please give me a chance. And it's not like I know what it's like for a North American going like, what are you talking about? Funding. This is a small place. You can't jump in a van. Like, let's say you're a band or an artist or a singer-songwriter. You can't jump in a van like you could in Europe or North America and play a bunch of gigs super cheap, eat, at Taco Bell. Because it's affordable.
Crunches.
Or Popeyes. But I mean, you can't really do that here. So your only opportunity to, if your idea is, I would love to get signed by a big label or try at least.
Yeah.
It feels, for a lot of the kids that come to me that are 14, 15, 16, it feels out of reach because I don't have any money. I can't tour. I can't play live shows. The days of making money selling albums is gone. You got to play live, as you know, as an artist yourself. So for me, I don't know what to tell these kids other than, hey, like, let's sit down and chat.
Yeah. I think it's a holistic approach. That's why it's so important for them to understand the business side of music as well.
Yeah.
And this is an infrastructure that's very important for the island. We are a small community, a very small island, and it is what it is. But it means that we have a lot of niche talents, as it were. I grew up, I come from Aruba folk music, but then I, went into this rock thing. Then I was deep into dub music, so you could see that all this sort of like identifying, searching soca music, searching for what is my identity, dance music, etc. But in Aruba, a lot of the projects that we've done, and I think a lot of new talents also get confronted with it, is that what they are expressing, which is amazing talents, a lot of time doesn't have the crowd for it. It's a
that
niche
too, yeah.
that doesn't connect with a big crowd because we're such a small population.
Yeah, exactly. 100,000,
people are kind of like,
120,000, right?
okay, I like this, I like that, but then it's sort of, in bigger countries, there is a sort of a population that the niche is already enough sometimes to sustain that artist, even though they're doing something very specific. Niche is very important, though, in my opinion, for the sort of the creativity, the innovation, the authenticity nowadays. As we know,
I agree.
the global force, the sort of mainstream force, as it were, is becoming so big that a lot of things, a lot of artists, a lot of music, art, kind of is getting into this generic force, and we need, I think, and the value and AI is giving us even more value to authenticity and to the niche, which is where, it kind of evolves going to the core of the people. And so I think in that sense, talking about that, it also makes me think how even more important it is to build a sort of international infrastructure for this, because if you can't have the people necessarily on the island, then we need to connect that niche to the international
Yeah.
population.
Yeah.
And sort of building those bridges to see how we can sustain financially with funds, which we've been doing now, by the way.
Yes.
I've just also been an advisor now for funds for the what do you call it, performing arts and all
Yes.
that. And I know that being part of Holland is also very important for us. There are opportunities for funding, but it's about building those bridges. In some cases, it's just about reconnecting those
Right.
bridges and doing some maintenance work there, and then making sure that we are connecting these dots together so that the small niches that are so important, a lot of talent on the island, get a space where they can connect to a bigger audience than just the audience that are on the island. I think that's important, and that's
Yeah.
also part of the job, by the way.
It's a huge, I mean, it makes sense to me. That's a huge part of it. I can name one band already that were super sad to leave Aruba, but they had to because they're, so the band's called Bad Time.
Yeah.
Incredible band, synth punk, but it's so niche.
Yeah.
So they're based out of Antwerp, Belgium right now.
Yeah.
And they're killing it out there. They're touring, they're playing a pile of shows. And, we connect once in a while and they go, we just couldn't be based from Aruba. It would have been wouldn't it be really cool to one day, be like, I can be in a synth punk band or dark wave or vaporwave or shoegaze band and go on tour and be based from Aruba,
Yeah.
still call, you know what I mean? That's kind of like what makes me sort of sad that artists feel like they have to leave
Yeah.
to further their career because some people, are born to be artists. That's all there is to it.
Yeah.
You know?
You've been through that as well, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
I was going to
Yeah.
touch on that. Like, how did you, like, especially, like, I don't want to date us,
No, of course, of course.
but when you were growing up, when I was growing up, I didn't have the internet, you know?
No, I didn't have the internet.
So-
just before I left to Holland, we had a dial-in.
Yeah, I had one IBM computer in our house, and we all, like, were great.
Do we see? I think everyone remember that song.
Yeah.
And then
So-
mom is on the phone.
Yeah, we're all.
Put that down.
But I feel like
disconnect.
sometimes some of the artists that they're in that same disconnect where there is communication, they can see
Yeah.
what's going on in the rest of the world, but you lived through that as well. So
Yeah, I think Aruba is a very special place, and whoever comes here feels that.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
I think that's very interesting for our island that we are so multicultural. We are built on this foundation of having so many different cultural influences that kind of made an island that is very strong, built on all these tools and knowledge, and
Yeah.
speak four languages, sort of
Wonderful.
standard. And so that is an interesting community that is so strong, also, and preparing itself to be pushing so many talents, and creating out of that sort of feeling a lot of talents that are very, very interesting in that sense. I think what we do need to do and keep working on is in creating the infrastructure for them so that either some of them you can't keep them on the island.
Yeah, I mean,
Some of
yeah, I
them
get
just
it.
need to go and get that experience and live it. But what I do think that is important though is that we do connect with them. That's
for
also
sure.
part of
Yeah,
the job.
for
Like
sure.
I'm living in Amsterdam, and at the same time, I think it's very, very important to also look at a diaspora community and say, hey, we see you. Your island is backing you up
Yeah,
in some way. I always say
100%.
to them, you need to kind of value your talents so that they can make it and not wait until they make it and then value them. Because by giving them that support, it's also very important. They're like sort of ambassador to your island. in
Yeah,
that sense.
absolutely.
And we need to embrace that, and otherwise you're gonna get a lot of people that are, very talented that leave the island. You create this sort of creative drain,
Yeah,
brain
for sure.
drain at times. It happens everywhere, but you do want to sort of build that relationship as well and see how they can also give. They want to give back to their island. They want to, they feel that need to be back with their island and to give some support. But I think we need to create that infrastructure. And sometimes it's simple. Sometimes it's just about, hey, reaching out.
Yeah.
How can we help? How can we support? And I've been trying to do that also with the link with labels,
Yeah.
publishing. Was very fortunate to work with Sony Music Publishing, the Benelux part of it.
Yeah.
and we came to a deal to make a record label, and at the same time a publishing infrastructure for local talents that can be represented. So I started Palms Up. It's a learning curve because it doesn't always align with
Yeah.
how the business is already, but that's part of the job. I think it's very important. I always say it's a marathon. Sometimes people say you start a label, they want to see the success.
Oh, right away. Yeah.
It's not a sprint, it's a marathon.
Yeah.
And by developing this and by keeping at it, by learning, realigning, readjusting, I think we can create a more sustainable way for talents uh, to be in their power and at their best, and
Yeah.
also try to connect them to that a crowd that they need. I do believe in the power of the niche. I do believe in the power of the talents that we have on the island. We just need to keep finding ways to connect them so
Yeah.
that they can be even better in what they do. And
Ah,
also
yeah.
thanks to you, because you're also doing that work already.
I don't know what
by
you're
the
talking about.
way. No, I do know.
No, but I just want to touch
Talking
on.
about me, but
I just want to touch on something you said.
because you are also pushing. You're working in this sector already.
I am absolutely. But I just wanted to touch on something you said that was really, really, really important. You said it's important for these artists in the diaspora. I see you. That's
Yeah.
so important. Sometimes that is
important.
like 90% of it.
It's so important.
It's just, can my people see me? Can people from where I'm from see me? Can they hear me? And they go, I don't want any money. I just want to know that you care about what I'm doing at some capacity.
Many artists
sure.
go abroad. That feel they have to go abroad. They feel like they're abandoned by the island.
Yeah, it's
For
kind
the
of yeah,
creators,
it
it's
kind
kind
of
of
feels
that
like
feeling.
I had to leave. I had to leave to get
It's
better
a
or
good
bigger.
point. I mean, that disconnect is so important that we kind of build that that sort of connection back
Yeah.
to our people as well. I think being seen is really just a very important thing to start with, and then we can move on to, and how can we help,
Right.
how can we support each other in that sense. And I talk to a lot of artists, also locally, of course, and abroad. And I think people get overwhelmed by the industry, because coming from an island is one thing, and when you do something that is interesting, you might get some praise for it here. And then when you leave the island, you're also part of the thousands and thousands
Exactly.
of
Yeah.
bands and
Yeah.
dishes out there.
Yeah.
And again, what makes you different? I'm saying this because here is the point where I come back to,
Okay.
where we also need a sort of a better link to what is that sort of identity where you come from. That is your niche. That is your authentic self.
Yeah.
So if you have that influence and you kind of combine it with what you do, that is what makes you authentic out there, so that you don't, kind of become part of the whole generic,
Yeah.
even competing on millions and millions of music that get put out every day.
Absolutely.
So that is a strength.
Yeah.
We are at the point where we have a lot of
totally
possibilities
agree.
for Aruba, and I'm excited about that.
I have to tell you, I mean, and Jason came with us. We were just in Toronto, which you gotta come with us to Toronto.
I gotta go very soon. I've never been, and I would
Listen.
really love to.
We've got a 3-week tour coming up. I know it starts July 1st. We've got a 3-week tour
Yeah.
coming up. But we just spent a week in Canada at North by Northeast. I think one of North America's biggest discovery festival. And we were lucky enough. So the band's called Active Mirror. Everybody, Active Mirror.
Who's that?
Yeah.
First time I heard of him. So.
First time, just 4 lads from this beautiful island that love this island really, really hard, and they write about what they write about.
Yeah.
I mean, on the surface they might not seem like it, but their songs are about growing up here.
Yeah.
The struggles of the island.
Yeah, absolutely, and their love and their passion and their fears and a lot of the things that they wrote about. But what stood out being in Toronto, it was wild, and Jason can probably attest to this.
Yeah.
By day 2, people were going,
Crazy.
"Who's this
People
band
are
from
going-
Aruba?"
People are going crazy for that.
We were called out in a there was a panel, and there was a bunch of people there, and the moderator said, "We have a submission from Active Mirror. You guys are the 4 guys from Aruba," and everyone started cheering in the room. And the narrative was,
I have that on tape.
You
I
do.
have you say have it on tape.
yeah,
I have
so
recorded.
Jason is directing a documentary on the whole trips. He came with us too. But all that to say is they got a huge sense of pride. They did an interview with CFRC, which is a huge college radio station out of Kingston. Thank you, Rue. They did an interview with See You Next Tuesday. Thanks, guys, so much. And the narrative was they were, talking about growing up here and how they wrote about here. And it was for me, I'm their manager as well as their like super small indie label rep. It was for me, I was a little worried about how they would respond to the questions about being from Aruba. And I'm not from Aruba, but I've lived here 10 years. I was so proud at how they answered those. And they felt like honest answers. You can shoot the shit when you're with your pals and make fun of things. But when push came to shove, they were proud of being from here. They were honest about it and they loved it. And for me, like I really got like choked up. And if anybody's watching that knows me, you know that it's hard to make me cry. And it was just this like weird, prideful moment. It was incredible. But
That's amazing.
so to your point,
Thank you, by the way, for what you're doing
hey man,
for these guys, and also
I appreciate that.
It's bringing Aruba's name with it. We all feel
they're so
proud of these
talented.
kind of moments. It's amazing.
I appreciate that very much, and it for you to know it was really wonderful to see them be so like ambassadors, like you said earlier. They really, really were.
They are. They're the pillars. They're
Yeah.
the makers. They're the innovators. And
It was cool to see.
what you said, you go there, they go there.
Yeah.
They're Aruba, and that
Yeah,
moment,
they
they
even-
are Aruba. Those four guys.
They even spoke Papiamento for a bit.
Yeah, they were teaching some Papiamento
Some
words.
Papiamento words to interviewers.
It was wonderful. And I didn't from the narrative of before we ever left the island. I was like, oh, how are they gonna? They're gonna be asked about where they're from in these interviews, and it was really just heartwarming. It was fun.
Amazing.
It was awesome.
Amazing.
So yeah, so
very proud of Active
Yeah.
Mirror, and looking forward to.
you should come up
seeing-
for a show, man.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah.
I will. We will try to align the schedules, but I'm looking forward.
Okay, good. Maybe come see us in Singapore in September, late September.
Maybe, that's a good one.
Yeah, one of the first bands playing in Asia.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
also first.
Amazing.
Yeah, so there's a lot of really cool things happening, and I'm grateful for someone like you being in a position like this to speak for all artists at any capacity, really, and to see and
Yeah.
hear them. And
I think it's about really, I'm stepping into this role very humbly and with a deep respect to the people that have been working, for years in the cultural sector here, in all the areas, but even more for the talents and the artists, because I know what it's like to go through these struggles and trying to find, the connection with the public and
Yeah.
trying to stay true to yourself, because it can also, a lot of time, I went through it too, that at times I was like, I should just like switch up and just try to make this type of music so that I can survive from it.
Yep.
But then I was like, if it doesn't work out, I'm not successful at something that I tried, and it wasn't something that I maybe
you liked.
wasn't liked, or it wasn't
Yeah.
to my core. So I think this is a struggle, and this is something that a lot of talents go through in general. But I think on an island of Aruba, even more, that sort of struggle
Yeah.
to be seen. But I think it's exciting times. There is a lot of possibilities.
I agree.
There's new ways of creating projects or building new roads for us to keep moving forward, and hopefully we connect with everybody that's also looking at these podcasts to see
Yeah.
the talents of Aruba and to give them a support, because
So
I
much
think
talent here.
that would be really
Yeah.
important.
I'm super grateful, and I know we're probably running a little bit long. Hey there, director, how are we doing?
No, still under the 45. That's-
Okay, good. I just because I wanted to touch on one more thing.
No,
now
go
that
ahead, you still have-
I've got him trapped. There's nowhere he can go right now. So I've had this idea for quite some time.
Yeah.
I've been attending some really cool showcase music conference sort of hybrids. I attended Canadian Music Week a couple of years ago. And then I attended Departure TO this year, which is kind of the new incarnation of it. And I just came back from North by Northeast, which is also a conference and showcase. And I thought it would be super wonderful for Aruba because we have so much varied talent. And like you said, a lot of niche talent.
Yeah.
To have a showcase and music conference festival here. And it could start off small, like you said, the business, maybe some workshops on the business side of things, which I get DMs a lot from like 15, 16-year-olds. Like, how do I get the attention of this? How do I register a song or with a PRO? Things that really, it was such a learning curve for me when I started this tiny label a couple of years ago. So, I've even got like a whole pitch for it, but I won't bore you with those details.
No, it's not.
But
boring.
like for me, like,
wait a minute.
Okay.
This is important.
Okay.
Let's not minimize it.
I'll take
Let's not minimize it.
There's a couple of other.
Thank you for working on this already, and I think we should really take this as a and looking at how we can make this happen. That's how it works.
Awesome.
Take the momentum and let's see how we can organize it. It's super important.
I think
I
can't tell you.
This is the way we start building those small steps that create those bigger platforms.
Absolutely. I can't tell you. I met Michael Rodbari. Michael, we all love you so much. Thank you for everything you've done for Active Mirror and your support and your love. We met Michael. I met Michael with Mishak. We went to Canadian Music Week. Mishak is a guitar player from Active Mirror. And we just clicked. And Michael is a jack of all trades. He is kind of like the Canadian Ryan Seacrest. And he's been following our career. He did our first North American interview. And that was from meeting him at a conference and showcase 3 years ago. And he came to North by. He announced us on stage at our first ever Aruban act in 30 years. And those are the connections that you make and the relationships you build and nurture. And a lot of the things that happened at North by happened because of the last showcase I went to. Yeah. So these things are not, I mean, they're wonderful for showcasing talent, but also for networking and making those connections. It doesn't, just because you live in Aruba, it doesn't mean you can't do stuff outside of Aruba and still be based here.
That's an amazing.
So that's kind of what I'm thinking of for this.
Thank you for saying that, because I think a lot of people need to hear that as well, locally as well. And thank you to everybody that are showing their love for Aruba and for these talents and outside of Aruba. When you meet talents like this, and that people are so open and friendly to help and support, that's exactly what we need and want. And so I say thank you for that.
Yeah, I really, I'm thankful too. And one of the things that surprised me, and Rue from CFRC, she said, hey, she did an interview. She goes, I really, does a band have a band camp? And I went, well, no, because online purchases aren't very easy in Aruba. She said, put up a band camp, see what happens. We sold albums that, like 5 minutes after we put up the band camp, you know what I mean? And put up a merch store, and they were selling t-shirts already. So, it's these things, these are also, that also comes into it as well, and how people can monetize and live off their art.
Yeah, totally.
So
amazing.
Thank you for being open to that.
And I think this is a conversation we can go on for hours.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, I totally agree.
But the core of it is really about how a group like Active Mirror, that is a local band doing a music that they love, showing as well that we have these niche talents on the islands, and when you connect them the way they're building right now, it shows that we have amazing talents that can
100%.
definitely stand on the international platform and show something very special to the world. And if you see the responses and the love we're getting from outside, and that you guys are showing that already, it shows that we have a lot of talents that can still connect to the world out there, and we should keep working hard for building these bridges and building a stronger Aruban scene in whatever way we can.
I completely agree with that. And I think that's like a wonderful sort of way to culminate what we've been talking about, because that really is the core idea of what I want to do, and I feel like what you want to do as well.
Yeah, and thank you for all your work. I know, I've seen you from a long time as well, and I'm happy that we started, doing that project together.
Yeah, that was great.
It was great, and I think, again, thank you for all the energy you're putting into
Merci
this.
beaucoup. I appreciate that very much. Masha danki.
Bravo.
Yeah. I really do. I do love what I do, and I love the chaos and the mayhem, and I'm living for it. So here's to many more. Obviously, we're running on fumes and vodka alone, but hey, let's go. But Michael, I really wanted to thank you, for coming in today. And Jason, thank you very much as well. But I really look forward.
Didn't talk much, but
Jason, you know what? What you contributed was wonderful. Thank you.
Everything.
You're doing the super. They can't see what you're doing, but you're doing the best, the biggest bit of it. But yeah, Michael, merci beaucoup, Masha danki. Thank you very much for being here.
Danki. And hopefully, this is going to be one that we'll have more of talents as well on it.
Yeah.
Talking about, and showcasing through this platform.
I hope so too.
And thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
All right.
Thank you. I like conversation.
Vai bom, Pablo?
Sim, sim.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Thanks. Oh, man.
Did it
That
go
was
well
great.
for you?
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah.
I like conversations.
Pablo?
Seriously,
Yeah, you
really.
good?
Okay, okay.